All right, here we go. We talked on the last program about a winner and a loser. Now, let's talk about changing that losing mentality, that losing mindset sight to one that wins. We never want to leave people in a situation where you cannot rebound, where you cannot change, where you are staying in that place of a lazy mindset. I'm going to talk about the other part first. Okay. One of the things that we have to realize is this: when Mr. Trump, when he lost before, immediately he was in a rebounding. He had a game plan. He says, I must get my plan together. The difference, and if you have a lazy mindset, is that you take time to lick your wounds. Oh my gosh, this has happened. You take time to do all of that. Stop it. When you do that, you lose the momentum. You lose the sting of the pain. Here it is. I know people that have had setbacks. I've had a lot of them myself. One thing is this, is that when I make it to where I'm going to feel sorry for myself for a day or two or a week, where I am going to keep blaming someone else for my problems or for my laziness, then I continue to go backwards. Number one is this: how you change it. I take full responsibility. I don't look for anything or anyone to change. And you say, why is that, Dr. Baker? Because if you blame somebody else, that means you got to change them. No, 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 no. That's an impossibility. When I take responsibility for where it is I am, how it is that I'm thinking, the results that I have, what I have and what I don't have, then it puts the pressure, it puts the ability, it puts the power back in my court. Now I have a power ball. Now I have the abilities to make the changes. I do not have to wait for an outside source to change in order to allow me to win. When you start to think this way, that I know who I am, and that lazy, that lethargic, that person, that kind of brain, that kind of mind is not who I am. So now I'm going to use this boundless brain power. And what it is that I'm going to do is that I'm going to start to search and find out what it is that I can do in order to change. I must change me first. Remember that. That's number one. Change you first. Until you change you, nothing on the outside is going to change. I have to change the way that I think about me, about my abilities, about who it is. I have to get rid of the shame. Oh my gosh, I blew it. I failed. I did this. Get rid of that mess. It really doesn't matter. That is in the past. Now I take that, and what I do is I use it as a stepping stone. I use it to realize, wow, okay, that was an adventure. That was a very expensive education. I have paid for an education by losing. I have paid for an education by losing money. I have paid for an education by my business going bankrupt. I've paid for an education by having a divorce. I've paid for an education by whatever it is. You fill in your own blanks. All right. So now what am I going to do? Am I going to wallow in it, or am I going to have a change of mindset so that I can have a change of mindset? Now you say, okay, what is mindset? So that I can see things differently from within myself. I'm not talking about seeing them differently on the outside, because once I start to see them differently from the inside, then I start to get excited about the abilities that I have, and I start to know more about who it is that I am. I realize that I have to change because, and that change is possible because where I am right now is as far as I can go with that. So what do? I might enroll in in a program. I might read a book. I might go to someone. I might get a coach. I might do any and all of those things, or I might do all of them. In fact, that's what I did. I did everything. Why is that? Because I did not like the lack of abilities. I did not like the lack of not using my ability. So I had to open everything up. I went into areas that I did not understand. That is really important. You go into areas that you don't understand, because your understanding where you are only keeps you there. So I had to find things, and it was going through the difficult parts. This is one of the things that most people don't want to do. I don't want to go through the difficult parts. I've told people over and over that one of my favorite movies is The Shawshank Redemption. All right. And I always try to find it where it's not all of that profanity, because they use the words in there are just filthy. But my favorite scene is when one of the main actors, he goes through the sewer of a prison, and he walking through all of that filth. I mean, can you imagine that he had to walk through the sewer system? Do you imagine all of the toxicities and all of the things that was going up in his nostrils? He didn't have a gas mask. If he had a gas mask, it was what? Can you imagine all the food, all the feces, all the nasty, nasty stuff that was there? Probably rats and all kinds of things. We're talking about a sewer system. But his freedom, his ability to get to where it was that he was going, because he had a treasure, he had a fortune, he had a life, he had something waiting for him that was greater than the places and the things that he had to do in order to go through, in order to get there. See, here is the mind of a winner. A mind of a winner is, I don't care what I have to go through. Whatever I go through, I am not going to complain while going through it. I am going to acknowledge it, and I might talk about it. I might deal with it later. This is the difference. I was noticing at one of the other programs, I talked about Mr. Trump again, and I talked about all the different court cases, all the things that were done. I'm not going to debate with you whether they were legal, illegal, whether they were right or wrong, whether they were just or unjust. None of that matters as far as I'm concerned with this thing goes, okay? But I'm looking at how it is that he went through it. I look at some of the other presidents. I look at some of the other things that people went through, and it seemed like none of it touched him. Well, you know it touched him. You know it touched his finances. You know it. Here it was with him. Here it was, he was having to pay, he was about to lose everything. And then all of a sudden, and I say all of a sudden, what happened is there was something that came through. Why? Because his abilities to look at things, his abilities to still do business in the midst of turmoil, he did not allow himself to feel sorry for himself at that time. He did not allow that thing to happen. He did not play the victim with himself. That's where you got to know yourself. Anytime you play the victim with yourself, anytime you start to look and say, they have this and I don't have this, my God, you've just lost. You have just gotten lazy again. You've laid back and ready for somebody just to do you in, for someone else to decide your life and your future. When you look at the situation and say, how do I overcome this? How do I tackle this? How do I bring this down? How do I do that? And so what happened with him is that he was able, a sale went through, so that here it was, he was in need one day, and then all of a sudden, all these billions of dollars came in so that he could pay what it is. And then, and eventually he ended up getting some of that money back, or whatever it is. See, when a lazy mind and a lazy person and a defeatist is one that looks at it and say, I don't like the way that you're treating me. You can say, I don't like the way that you're treating me, but it's the whole thing is this: how am I treating myself? How am I treating myself? And here it is. He was looking at a situation. And I want to talk to some of you older people, some that are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and whatever it is, and kind of like here in my bracket. One of the things of it is that we are not, this is the best time of our lives. This is not a time for you to shrink back and say, let the young people do it. Stay young at heart. Stay young in your mind. Stay hungry. Stay aggressive with yourself so that you can present, so that you can use the boundless brain power that God has given you. Do you know that your brain will work for you until the day that you die if you use it? Utilize it. And I mean, this is an advertisement also. We have a boundless brain power challenge that's coming up in December. Join it. I mean, come and find out what it is that can get you unstuck, that can get you activated, that can activate your mind, activate your spirit, activate who it is you are. I use everything from biblical perspective. I'm not preachy, but I use biblical principles in order to show you that these things work. And the only thing that's missing is you. You are the only part. You are the only one that can make your life work. Do not depend on government. Do not depend on any of the things that are around you. Do not depend on somebody else to do for you what you can do yourself. Like this video, share it, push the button to be alerted the next time there is one. And remember, push the button and find out more about the Boundless Brain Power Challenge. And so I'll see you next time on the next video. Bye-bye.